Stumbling into the house at 609 King's Way, you notice that as you immediately enter, that your nose is filled with the acrid smell of stale blood and rotting flesh. The scent itself is almost like a butcher's shop, yet that stench is hardly that of meat that you'd personally partake in. The harsh buzzing of flies cascades around you, and you are met with a cacophony of sensual attacks which make your stomach turn over and over through sheer visceral revulsion. As you peer in, your eyes are met with a dilapidated living space, yet everything seems odd and different, and a little out of place. The furniture, the walls, the floor, they all seem in sorts, yet there's an uncanny element to them, something you can't quite put your finger on. The cream colour you'd expect to see plastered across the walls is somewhat more leathery, and it moves ever so slowly, as if the house itself beats to the rhythm of your heart. As curiosity takes over, and you enter the abode, that smell only worsens, but now your eyes meet the furniture up close. As you run your hand across the lampshades, or over the boutique sofa, it feels almost as if you're gliding your hand across a relative's arm. It doesn't feel like material. It doesn't even feel like leather. It feels incredibly like the skin of someone you know. You turn to exit the house, these horrors beyond your mortal comprehension. Yet as you turn to the door, it appears closed behind you. As you turn slowly and gaze at the organs and entrails strewn across that hellish landscape, you hear the steps creak from the basement. From the shadows, you can see two amber fires of eyes gazing at you, and they're enthralled. You've come to spend the night. The Tzimisce from my first memories of playing Vampire the Masquerade were perhaps some of the most fearful and horrifying characters within any universe I had encountered. As one of the 13 major vampiric clans, they hold a great amount of significance and power within the world of darkness, but the threat they pose to any that encounters them is beyond your wildest nightmares. These are creatures which revel in the artistry of torture and pain. Their abilities are fine-tuned and perfected to utilize mortal bodies as if they were merely clay, only using humans as playthings for their greater artistic visions, whether that be turning you into a hulking monster to fight their battles, or into a lampshade to satiate their sadistic sense of humor. Nothing makes these kindred happier than utilizing every aspect of a mortal's fickle existence to gain the greatest amount of satisfaction from their terror. So, if you're a fan of horror or enjoy learning the lore of grim settings, such as what we're about to learn tonight, feel free to leave a like and perhaps subscribe to our channel. It helps us immensely. As stated before, the Tzimisce are entirely well equipped to use their vampiric abilities in tandem to pry every last fear out of a mortal's body to excite their unliving souls and to provide a temporary kick in an eternal life of suffering. Their vampiric discipline of Auspex provides them with the power to look into a person's innermost thoughts and insecurities, issuing them with secret and sensitive information of their most hidden vulnerabilities, which are easily pried out from a kind's fickle mind. These will soon be exploited by a Tzimisce's lust for anguish and their pursuit to delight upon their victim's misfortune and futile battle to keep composure. The discipline of animalism allows them to conjure and control animals to torment their victims at will. But what is their most important and prized discipline is one which may have been forgotten in modern nights. This is the ability to take flesh and mold it however they see fit, to take bone, cartilage, organs and more, and crafting it into artworks of bodily horror which would fill your mind with endless nightmares if only you once gazed upon them. Vicissitude, the ability to craft flesh, is the bread and butter of a Tzimisce's talents, and their prime outlet for exerting extreme pain upon their victims' mortal bodies. As such, there is a good reason that the clan are known as fiends within even vampiric circles, and are somewhat feared for this ability. It has been said that a Tzimisce does not require any vampiric powers to alter the mind, such as dominate or presence, simply because a Tzimisce knows how to break any unwilling subject that comes into their sadistic care. They do not need supernatural assistance to break another's mind. They can simply do so by utilizing your greatest fears and manifesting them in the real world, a place you cannot simply escape from or utilize your will to fight against. They are not below exploiting your loved ones, your enemies, or even your lovers against you in a way which would only cause revulsion and mental collapse. Their cruel tactics are innumerable and inconceivable, especially to mortal minds. These creatures of the night are supreme in their efforts to crack any spirit underneath their claws, and the taboo surrounding their nature and name has often placed them under the umbrella of the Sabbat, a vampiric sect which is renowned for their uncontrollable and flagrant abuse of the masquerade, and their willingness to let the vampire form be the true ruler of not only the night, but of all existence within the world of darkness. The Tzimisce, in conjunction to this connection clan are also great believers in Gehenna, the end times for vampire kind. Whilst they have a reverence for tradition and heritage, they deeply fear the coming of the antediluvians, the original clan progenitors, championing themselves by destroying their own clan creator, though such a fact is open to scrutiny, and I will explain as we delve in further. Worthy of their status of being one of the 13 great vampiric clans, the Tzimisce have a rich and extensive history which dates back some 10 millennia. As is the case with many of the great clans, the Tzimisce progenitor was a third-generation antediluvian, i.e. a vampire which was sired by Cain's childer. We do have a video on him if you wish to research the hypothetical original vampire more thoroughly. The Tzimisce antediluvian is somewhat of an obscure entity within kindred history, due to the fact that time has more than anything eroded and gave leeway to fabricated myth for the founding of this and many other ancient vampire clans. In the city of Enoch, the first human civilization, the Tzimisce antediluvian, otherwise known as the Eldest, started life as any other mortal being, yet many surmise that his nature was either one of intense purity and pursuit of perfection, or the deepest of depravity and a deep-rooted sadism. There are conflicting tales of his siring, yet all surmise that he was embraced by the first vampires of Cain's progeny in those ancient lands of Nod, either being embraced by Enoch, the second-generation vampire, or Irad, another second generation, who had supposedly created him through purging all of his evil into a protean being. Whatever tale you choose to believe, one thing is certain. The Tzimisce antediluvian was created for his innate ability to harness the beast within, and instead of trying to connect with his humanity, chose to exacerbate the vampire inside of his carcass, not only giving in to the beast, but embracing it fully. As such, Tzimisce side all the way up to present nights have this otherworldly admiration for the vampire form, rejecting the constraints of human flesh and wishing to completely overthrow them. This pursuit to metamorphosize into a being which heightens the vampire form is used in both beautification, yet also to inflict great artistic pain onto those creatures deemed lesser, especially unwilling mortals. The Tzimisce pride themselves with the knowledge that they have destroyed their antediluvian, a practice which is highly venerated and mythologized in the Sabbat, who are fearful of the end times within vampiric lore, which speak of the great elders rising once again to consume all of vampire kind. However, the true tale of Tzimisce's antediluvian is typical of the clan's scheming and cruel nature, and highlights that the events of the battle which took place all those centuries ago was yet again another play in the great game of Gehenna. The Eldest, within the time of the first Anarch revolt in the 15th century, had long taken domicile within Transylvania, a place renowned for its mythical vampiric ties, especially within modern nights. The Anarch revolt was a vampiric movement felt across the world, yet the one in Romania was spearheaded by Diablerist and notable Tzimisce, Lugoj, the Bloodbreaker. After having Diablerized 5th and 4th generation vampires, i.e. the act of draining another vampire's vitae to absorb their powers and soul, Lugoj made plans to annihilate the Tzimisce antediluvian in his resting place. Under the knowledge of his whereabouts, and the promise that the elder vampire was in torpor, a state of near death for kindred. This was the most opportune time to take advantage of the powerful being's vulnerable state, all if the facts remained true and fell in place. However, the truth was perhaps far from satisfactory for our hero Lugoj. Besieging the Cernog monastery, the resting place of the Eldest, the vampire anarchs battled fearlessly with the protectors of the site, all until Lugoj was able to confront the supposedly sleeping elder, to rid him of his unlife, and to break the ancient blood bonds in the noble attempt to prevent the end times. However, the Eldest was not in torpor, and whilst overwhelming Lugoj with his unfathomable power, he stuck the revolutionary on a wooden hook, paralyzing him and utilizing his evil, horrifying power of vicissitude to change his and Lugoj's appearances, switching roles in a cruel facade to frame Lugoj as the victor, whilst he truly lay dying on that stake. As the anarchs dawned on the scene, the Eldest now looked as if he was on the wooden hook, being diablerized by the voracious anarchist. The Tzimisce, whilst being feared and generally taboo in wider Cainite society, especially one dominated by the Camarilla, are heavily entrenched in their principles of tradition and ancestry. A Tzimisce, by their instinctual bane, must spend their time resting, buried in at least 2 handfuls of dirt of their ancestral homeland, or sacramental soil which has some great significance. In a broader understanding, a Tzimisce must remain grounded, i.e. surrounded by something which they revere as having strong ties to. They are often confined to a certain area or domicile, and take great pride in having a base location which remains permanent. They are not roaming beasts, and take great pride in staying in a singular sphere of influence. Hence, as beings of tradition, a Tzimisce, especially depending on how old they are, tend to be beholden to principles of hospitality, often ones which are perceivably antiquated or old-fashioned. A Tzimisce will, when approached, often provide you shelter and protection for 3 days and 3 nights, as long as you respect the domicile of which they are its master. In such a sense, they are very similar to popular culted depictions of Dracula, whom, if you believe the word around town, is also actually Tzimisce himself. One of the most disturbing physical pursuits of a Tzimisce, however, transcends body modification and metamorphosis of human flesh. The Tzimisce are renowned for having strong connections to blood bonding, i.e. the ability to share one's own vitae, this aforementioned supernatural blood, and to feed it willingly or unwillingly to a mortal or other creature, to inherently compel it to your own will. Tzimisce, as a consequence of this, are known for keeping all manners of ghouls, so-called humans that have an appetite for vampiric blood. However, the ghouls which are kept within the Tzimisce's entourage aren't always kept in a manner of which you would call explicitly human. If you're prized by a Tzimisce, you may be turned into a slatter or noble ghoul, and you will serve your master as a bodyguard of types. Whilst this may seem like an extremely prestigious pursuit, you would be far from the truth. After enduring starvation for days, if not weeks, you'll be put under the process of body modification, to transcend your human form to perfectly befit the duty of protecting your master. Your guts will be rearranged, as will your bone matter. You will be fleshcrafted into a being which will be, for all purposes, far more efficient in combat, but you will hardly resemble your previous self at all. In fact, you'll often look like a gross parody of what a human is meant to be. Chitin will armor your body, protruding from your skin in horrific spikes and plates, whilst your fat will mold around your most vital organs, protecting them from fatal attacks. You may now be a superior warrior, but you will be a further reminder that you are merely a plaything for the Tzimisce, kept in a state of perpetual servitude until your usefulness runs out. Though as bad of a fate that may sound, becoming a slatter may be a better alternative than other such methods of ghoulification. Perhaps you weren't a prized ghoul of your master. Not to worry, you're still useful to the Tzimisce. Even if you'll only become a sum of many parts, you may still have a role to play. Through vicissitude and Koldunic sorcery, another type of ghoul can be created by melding and fusing in grotesque fashion many parts of a human and beasts alike. Such a creature, huge in stature, is known as a vodst, a war ghoul, fused by the workings of a collection of Tzimisce. Any semblance of humanity is removed, as the brain no longer has any connection to self-thought or even simple control. They are a beast of impulse and servitude to the Tzimisce, being grossly bloated and bursting, with spikes, tusks, mandibles and claws, being just a few things protruding from this mass of flesh and gore. They know only to kill and to serve their Tzimisce master, forever being chained to a painful existence of death and slaughter, being completely unable to follow the will of their past selves, only the urge to satiate their owner's lust for pain. If you happen to catch the eye of a Tzimisce, don't expect too many gifts to be favourable ones. Out of all the vampires that wander the night, they are perhaps some of the most cruel and unforgiving to those that cross their path. As such, you may be calm to know that their clan is not as strong as it once was, and as the modern nights progress, their potency in cities and beyond wanes ever further, as their propensity for solitude and isolation only exacerbates their weakness. But if you happen to stumble into one, it may be the last time you resemble a human, and you may end up just another piece of living furniture at the hands of your new master. The Tzimisce are indeed one of my favourite clans in Vampire the Masquerade. They offer a certain flavour to the world of darkness which is akin to the Dark Eldar in 40k, something which is rare, yet so horrifying that it might actually just keep you up at night. A great example of a Tzimisce at work can be found in the game Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, which if you haven't played, I highly suggest you get it. It's usually on sale on Steam, and offers such a great insight into the world of darkness, especially the vampire clans. The Tzimisce play a big part in the plot, and the levels which consist of you exploring their domains are, for one, both extremely interesting and horrifying all at once. So, did you enjoy this tale about one of the most terrifying vampire clans to grace the world of darkness? Do you want to learn more? Let me know what you thought about this entry in the comments below. Now I'd be delighted to engage in any topics surrounding this or any other elements of the world of darkness you wish to know about. Thank you for watching. Again, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you wish. It does truly help the channel. And until next time, remember to not wander naively into the night.